Hey everyone, if you've ever clicked Add to Cart on a subwoofer that looked amazing in the product photos, only to end up with a bass that feels thin, or a cabinet that rattles louder than the music, you know the pain. I've spent the past couple of weeks testing the SVS SB1000 Pro sealed sub in a real home theater setup, and I'm going to walk you through the highs and the hidden lows so you don't waste your money on a piece that sounds great on paper, but falls short in the living room. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation people have with a 12-inch sealed sub like the SB1000 Pro is whether it can actually fill a medium-sized room with the kind of deep, tight punch that a typical big-box sub promises. Sealed designs are often praised for precision, but they are also sometimes blamed for lacking the sheer output of ported models. That's a real dilemma, because you want the accuracy of a sealed enclosure without sacrificing the sheer volume you need for action movies, or the low end in modern music. In practice, the SVS unit manages a surprising balance. I set the sub up in a 19 square meter family room, placed it on a rug right against the front wall, and fed it a 300-watt AV receiver that recommended a 200-watt IMS sub. The cabinet is finished in a piano gloss black that really does look the part, but the true test is how the driver behaves. The fiber composite cone, which SVS claims has an exceptional stiffness-to ratio, definitely lived up to the description. From the first low-frequency thump, you can feel the cone moving without the flexing or softness you sometimes hear in cheaper sealed subs. When I cranked the volume to 85% on a 4K UHD movie, the explosions in the background stayed clean, and the rumble from a low-frequency bass line didn't get mushy. That's the practical strength. The driver's stiffness translates into a punchy, articulate bass that stays tight even when you push it hard. Another hidden trade-off is the sub's relatively compact footprint. Because it's sealed, you don't need the venting clearance that a ported box requires, which means you can tuck it under a couch, or set it up on a low bookshelf without sacrificing room space. That's a huge plus for apartment dwellers or anyone who doesn't have a dedicated subwoofer room. The dual ferrite magnet motor with an extended aluminum pole piece also means the unit can handle peaks without the driver overheating, a concern that often goes unnoticed until you sit down for a marathon movie night. Now onto the practicality of the features. The dual-layer voice coil design is meant to improve linearity and maintain fidelity at full excursion. In a simple test of a bass-heavy track, think Billie Jean, with its deep sub-bass, you'll notice that the SB1000 Pro doesn't just boom, but actually tracks the musical note with clarity. The low-frequency response is smooth from about 30 Hz up to the crossover point, and the sub doesn't suddenly fall off like some cheaper units when you push it past 70 dB SPL. That means you get real musical bass, not just a rumble that masks the rest of the mix. Who should buy this? If you already have a solid 2-channel or small format home theater system, and you want to upgrade the low end without going full size, the SB1000 Pro is a perfect match. It works great with bookshelf speakers and mid-range towers that already handle mids and highs. The sub simply fills the missing bottom end. It also makes sense for gamers who want that kick in first-person shooters where explosions need impact without drowning the dialogue. The unit's precise bass means you won't lose the details needed for competitive gaming, where you have to hear footfalls and engine revs clearly. On the flip side, if your primary concern is maximum SPL for a large home theater room, say, a 40 square meter space, or a dedicated home cinema, there are larger ported models that will move more air and deliver the earth-shaking thump you might expect at that scale. The sealed design of the SB1000 Pro, while tight, does limit the absolute output compared to a 12-inch ported sub of similar power. Also, because the SB1000 Pro is a sealed unit, it won't give you as deep a bass extension below 30 Hz as a ported counterpart, so if you're chasing the subsonic frequencies for a true bass explorer experience, you might feel shortchanged. One practical weakness that shows up in everyday use is the lack of an integrated high-pass filter. The SVS app provides basic EQ and phase adjustment, but the sub doesn't have a built-in crossover that you can set to 80 Hz or 100 Hz without doing a bit of external calibration. For most listeners, you'll get away with the default 120 Hz setting. But if you're running a more complex speaker layout, say, a front-wide setup with ceiling speakers, you'll need to spend a few minutes fine-tuning the crossover to avoid overlap or gaps. It's not a deal-breaker, but it adds a small extra step for the DI inclined. Another nuance, the subs.